On this episode of the Who Is This podcast, we were fortunate to speak with longtime Graham County Search and Rescue volunteer, Ronnie Glaspie. Ronnie is the past president of Search and Rescue for our awesome county and is currently serving as the project coordinator. He has over 30 years of volunteer experience and service put in with Search and Rescue. It was great to hear what Search and Rescue is all about, what services they provide, and what a neat and rewarding experience it can be to be a volunteer member. Search and Rescue has a lot of exciting events and projects going on, and it was great getting to know Ronnie and hear about his experiences helping our community. Enjoy.
I usually start with saying, all right. So we're here on the Who Is This podcast, and super excited to have Ronnie Glaspie here with us. Am I saying your last name right? Glaspie? Okay. Awesome. So Ronnie, and you just got back from a cruise.
Tuesday. We just got back from Alaska, and it was awesome.
That's a bucket list item for me. What part of Alaska did you go to?
We started out in Seattle, went all the way up into Ketchikan, went into the Glacier Bays, I'm trying to think of all the ports we went into because we've been on it for 13 days. Went all the way, and then we ended up coming back to Juneau and then flying out.
Okay.
And we went into a couple of the glaciers and took a couple of float planes and
in
Ketchikan and in Petersburg.
Okay.
And that was so exciting. My wife and I, my little sister and her husband went. So the four of us, we've been kind of traveling for the last year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Whenever I think about cruises, I think like beachy destinations, but everyone that I've ever talked to that has been on the Alaskan cruise says it's like the pinnacle of cruises. It's the best one to go.
That's my bucket. If I could pick one, that's what it would be. Because I'm a mountain person. Like I like going to the beach every now and then, but if I had to choose mountains or the beach, I would choose the mountains just because I don't like sand and all that.
Well, we picked the American Cruise Line, and it's more expensive, but it's a small ship. The ship we were on would hold about 180 people. We had 130 people on it.
Okay.
So we can get into it gets into the smaller ports. We get to go into the ports and get off and go cruise around. They take us on excursions, or we can pick our own.
Yeah.
And we get to go into the town. Every port we get to go off the ship, and we can just walk around town, take some of their tours and stuff.
Was this your first time to Alaska, or have you been before?
I've been went to Soldotna, and went up there and went fishing a few years ago.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So you know my dad, Hiram Morris,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So he and my mom years ago, probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now, they went and lived in Ketchikan for a couple of summers selling those cruise excursions.
Okay.
So my dad's been a salesman his whole life, and he's always got, but yeah, so they went for a couple of summers and they sold the float plane. They did a lot of, all those things that you saw when you were there. He was there, and that's what they would do. The cruise ships would come in and they would go and talk to people and say, here's what we can do. And did you have it all planned out beforehand, or did you kind of talk to someone once you got to port?
Well, for the most of it, we had it planned out beforehand. But then, like Ketchikan, we just ran down. We seen a float plane, ran down there, and they said, "Yeah, we got room and we'll fly." So,
yeah.
And so he took us up into, and the name really gets me. It's the Salt or something Ford, big wilderness. Anyway, he flown us way up in the mountains, 2 hours. We were an hour up, landed on a lake way up in there, got off the float plane. We have pictures of it. And then he took us, it was more personal. He took us all over the place, and it was really nice. The second one was out of Petersburg. That was already set. We flew over the one glacier, and that was pretty neat because he had a little trouble with his engine. So he says, "Hey, we got to land right down here in the bottom, and I've got to do some stuff." So we're like, "Okay." And so we land, and we're sitting right by one of the floating icebergs. Really, right there. It's just out there off the wing.
Oh my gosh.
And, that was so neat.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, we got it fixed." Up we went again. So here we go. We're just having fun.
Well, those pilots and those, I mean, that is just like anyone else working on a car. You know, that's just their form of transportation. For me, that's scary as heck.
Well, my experience with a float plane, my wife and I in 2018, we had just gotten married, and we went to visit my father-in-law in Florida, and he took us to this lake. We got on this plane. We were on this plane for 30 minutes, and the pilot couldn't get the engine started. And so we were like, okay, sorry, let us off. A month later, we found out that plane crashed.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, the same exact plane. And
but you never actually got up in the air.
We never got in the air because he couldn't get it started.
It took him a month to fix it. Yeah. Oh my God.
So I've always been a little leery of float planes ever since. But it sounds like it's pretty awesome, especially in Alaska.
I would do it. Absolutely, I would do it. The company, and I don't know the name or anything, but the company that my dad's and mom sold the float planes for, I don't know if it was a year or 2 or 3 later, it was big news, but one of those planes crashed into a mountain and had a bunch of tourists, and they all died. I think it was like 8 or 12 people, or it was that. He was selling that exact flight, you know, and so it kind of hit home to them, you know, so. But yeah, I would do it. My dream is, I'm a big hunter, and I want to go, if I could pick one place to go hunt, it would be Alaska. I would want to do a moose hunt in Alaska, and a lot of times they take you in on a float plane, and, you know, so I would definitely do it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you are, I'm excited to get to know you for, you know, kind of the reason we brought you in, because I don't even know exactly what your position is with search and rescue.
Well, I'm now the project manager.
Okay, so
How long were you the president?
I've been in search and rescue for 30 years.
Okay.
And for the past 20 years, I've been the president.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Had a couple of different vice presidents, and then Tommy Snodderly come in, and we worked great together, and then probably a year and a half ago, anyway, finally made up my mind that I needed to step down for a couple of reasons. First of it is let new young leadership in. You know, there's a time to get out and stuff, get away from the having to be right there in charge and everything else, and so, you know, it was time for that. My wife went through some medical treatments and stuff like that, and we conquered most of that. And since we conquered that, we said we're going to start traveling. And you can't do that job if you're going to do a lot of traveling.
Right.
So I said it was time for me to step down. I was getting ready to retire. I'm like, okay, I'm going to retire out. But because of the project we had going on, and I was the lead person, I've been the lead person on it, a lot of people come in and said, you can't. So I opted, and I said, okay, I'll step down as project manager. And so that's what I took my role on, as project manager.
Now, is that like one specific project, or is there multiple, all the projects that search and rescue are working on? What exactly does that mean?
My project was to get our new building up.
Okay.
And get the whole building up, get everything done. And then I've been helping Tommy and them, because there is more projects coming, and I'm going to stay on, and if they invite me around, keep me around, I'll keep helping them with the project and stuff. But my main project was get the building, get our new building put up. And I guess I can get into that a little bit with you.
Yeah.
Back in 70, 71, a lot of volunteers here in town built the existing building. And I always said that was...
I sound really ignorant right now. Where is that building?
It's 630 South Dusty Trail. It's right across the street from Desert Cross Animal Hospital.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I sound really ignorant because that's my neighborhood.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean,
that street is kind of hidden.
We're
a lot of
hidden
people know about that. Yeah.
And so they built that building, and I always felt I've been fortunate enough to have a building to work out of. I see other counties that they struggle trying to work out of stuff and how they do things, and so we've been fortunate to have our building. And so the one thing we started, years ago of, there was a handful of us saying, we want this building. We need this building. Need it for the community. 2020, COVID hit. They shut us down on doing any training because we have a small training room. And so that told a handful of us and me that we have to get up and build a building, to keep up with our valley, our growing, more people, more equipment, more stuff we need to take care of. So I jumped in and I took a hold of it and said it was my passion. And luckily had people behind me saying, get out in front. So here I am.
That's awesome. So what did that entail? Was that finding funding for it? And where is it built? Is it a new building? Okay, I didn't think so.
Finding funding for it. The first thing we got off the ground is trying to find an engineer. I've been talking to the county zoning, board of supervisors, and they're like, okay. And I was so fortunate to meet Lupe Munoz, and he's a retired engineer. He lives here in town, and he come in, was looking, and I had the chance to meet him, and he stepped in and he said, Ronnie, he said, I want to do all the engineering for you. I'll help you out and everything else. I'm going to give you a great discounted price, and I don't want any money until the building's done.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, wow, that's great. And so a couple of the friends, a couple of the other search and rescue members, we were talking, and I said, now I need a secretary. So started looking, and I started asking around, and one of the guys told me, he said, you need to go over and talk to Kim Lackner. So I've talked to quite a few other people, and I went in and asked Kim, I said, would you like to take this project on as the secretary? And she said, well, let me think about it. Let me talk to Dawn about it, and I'll get back to you. Well, she came back a few days later, and she said yes. So then we had our team. So the three of us have been working very hard to get it kicked off the ground, get it out. And then the board of supervisors stepped in, and, they said, okay, what do we got to go? What do we got to do? So they put up $45,000, and they said, okay, we're going to start you out. United Way came in, and they looked it all over. We had many meetings with them. United Way, Denise Benton and Amanda down there, they're like, if you can do it, we'll help fund you. We'll do half of it. Wow. If you can come up with the other half. So we're looking at that time, we were looking at $400,000, but we reduced our cost down to $360. So last fall, we just started taking, and I guess I have to brag on myself. I went out and I started just going around to all kinds of businesses. And so right now, with all of our donations, we're setting about just under $160,000. But we went ahead and put the grant in with United Way. Kim and Trey, brother, did an awesome job putting all that together, putting all the money together. They put it all together, submitted it all, and the first grant cycle, United Way came out and they said, all right, we got $180,000 for you.
Wow.
So that just, we're right there.
That's so cool.
We're still out there. We still have some fundraisers going on. The search and rescue team's been busy. We've had numerous fundraisers. They did extra stuff, getting more money in there from our side. We're still out doing fundraisers to complete our portion of the money. I think we're about 20,000 shy.
That's you're there. You're at the finish line.
And I just got to say, this valley, the people in the valley just stepped up. The businesses stepped up. I went in and, lots of them started coming in. I have a whole list of them, but, I just can't say enough about the Heel Valley, of how they've stepped up and supported us and said, we want to be part of this program.
Yeah.
And so,
which is great that they're willing to do that, because honestly, the search and rescue is for the residents. That you're here, it's a free service. If search and rescue goes out and saves someone that needs help, they're not going to get a bill later, right? That's always the case. Obviously we have our first responders like ambulances and stuff, which is needed and we need all that, but Bill usually comes afterwards. So that's
Right.
one thing that is super cool about search and rescue is there's literally nothing expected from the community. So that's cool that the community is appreciative of
Right.
that, and the business are appreciative and are putting some money up to help. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of compare ourselves. We're not the excited people that go really, but we have so many volunteers in this valley, and I look at the first responders. I look at Safford Fire Department, Thatcher Fire, Pima, Fort Thomas Fire. We got Pima EMS that they volunteer their time, and we have so many good things. And then there's tons of volunteer organizations that do so many things in the community.
Yeah.
And they don't ask any money in return.
Yeah.
And so we're one of them.
When you do your raffles or different events and stuff, make sure you come and talk to us, because we're almost always willing to provide a Yeti cooler
Right.
or something like that we'll donate so that
Right.
you can help. It'll generate a little bit, but we're always willing to do something like that. So
and
make
you
sure-
have in the past.
Yeah.
We've had we've had the 4-H auctions years ago. We were tied into that.
Mhm.
You guys have always donated. You've always come in, along with the rest of the community and
Mhm.
stuff. So
Yeah, and that's something super important to us, is to be involved with the community. And
Right.
that's honestly why we're doing this podcast. One of the
Right.
reasons why we're doing this podcast is just an opportunity to be more involved. So search and rescue is all 100% volunteer,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Even the president is also a volunteer position.
Yeah, that's a volunteer.
So you said you've been involved for 30 years.
Yes.
So you've volunteered over 30 years of your life to
Yes.
this organization,
Yep.
which is awesome. How did you get into it initially?
Well, initially I was the assistant Boy Scout leader, and when my son got his Order of the Arrow, got out of Boy Scouts, Dave Despain, Nancy Despain, I'm going to throw him out there. Dave's like, okay, Ronnie, you got to just switch right over. You're going to be a good fit. So they took me straight into, right out of the scouting, and I went right into search and rescue. And I just fell in love with it, and it became my passion. The neat things we get to do and help people out. There's such a passion in it.
Yeah.
So it just became a passion of mine, and
So somebody that would want to join today, what's kind of the process for that? Or is it, because it's volunteer, so
Right.
do they just show up to a meeting, or what's the...
well, you need to show up to a meeting. There's a business meeting the second Thursday, but every Thursday at our building out there at 6:30, something's going on.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to be there, unless it's one of them weird holidays.
Yeah.
But anyway, come out, you fill out a form, fill out an application. That application goes to the sheriff's office, because you have to go through a background check.
Yeah.
And so when the sheriff signs off on it, then it comes back, and then you get called in for an interview. And they interview you. There's a group, a couple of officers, some of the other members. They'll go through an interview with you, and then after the interview, they'll make a decision of yes, you're on, or no, you're not. And so
How often do they say no? I'm just curious.
very seldom.
Yeah.
Very seldom, but every now and again, I'm going to be very honest. There's that time that we're like, I don't think this is going to fit what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking to volunteer, but I don't think this is a good fit.
Well, and I imagine that's because of the nature of what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, there's some hard situations that you're running across. I mean, it's a lot of times life and death,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you have a lot of stories that
Yeah,
have ended both ways.
Right.
So that makes sense to make that type of call during that interview process.
yeah. So, it's a hard call. It's always a hard call when you have to say no,
Mm-hmm.
to somebody, but it's been done. And I think it's in the best interest of them, and also the best interest of the team.
Right.
Because you got a teamwork, and we all work as a team. You go out and you're counting on each other.
Yeah.
Last thing we want to do is have to rescue one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we want to keep everybody safe and sound,
Right.
and stuff. So
What is kind of a like a time commitment, or what is the overall commitment when somebody says, yeah, I want to volunteer, I want to be a part of search and rescue? What are they committing to?
Well, they're committing to dedicating a lot of their free time.
So what do you mean when you say a lot?
A lot is when we have trainings every Thursday night. You know, there's them occasions you're not going to make it, but it's an expectation that you come and get trained. You got to find out who you're working with, who you're training with, and come to the meetings, come to the cleanup equipment check. When the trainings are going on, you're going to work with other volunteers, so you get to work with each other and you build a camaraderie, plus a trust. Okay, I know that, you know, they know what we're talking about. Go get this piece of equipment and let's do this and that and stuff. So there is a commitment to that. There is another side to search and rescue, which I've thrown around the last few years, but you know, I think Tommy's taken the same theory is like the treasurer, the secretary. There can be a member that's not actually a field person that goes out in the field.
They're providing value elsewhere.
They're providing elsewhere. So there's another place for other people. And for many years we said that there's this, almost anybody can come in. Years ago we had a guy, Del Rice, he was in a wheelchair, but he could still had his pickup, his Bronco fixed up. He was one of our best safety officers and everything else. You know, we had older people, Roy Francis, who knew all of it. As he got older, he could tell us all the roads, but he couldn't go out in them.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've had different ones that was cooks and help provide food and stuff. But to be an actual member getting out in the field, you need to donate a lot of time, get trained, get knowledge, and be ready when, hey, we've got this training coming up. You set aside your family life and you go do the training. You know? Okay, well, I thought I had a birthday to go to, but okay, the training's this weekend. That's when our instructors are available. So you have to set aside and move your family life around for that.
Right.
Yeah. Which can be a big commitment, or it is a big commitment for a lot of people. I mean, that's hard for a lot of people to do. And obviously, you know, the actual call outs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're pretty much on call at all times.
24/7, 365 days a week, a year. I mean, it's a commitment that you're right in the middle of something and the page goes out and you have to get up from dinner, get up from there's been a call out on 4th of July. There's been a call out one year Thanksgiving, right in the middle of it. See ya, I gotta go, you know.
Well, that's when people are doing things. That makes sense. I mean, on holiday weekends is when you have most people out and enjoying nature and out doing stuff. And so yeah, you might be having a party, and that makes sense.
So your family, you know, and that's one of the questions here is how does your family feel about you getting involved, and do they support you, and are they going to support you when you get right up out of the middle of somewhere and take off? You know, it's kind of, and there again, I put this back, it's kind of like our volunteer fire departments. They go down and they volunteer and everything. And when there's a fire and you're having dinner with your family, you jump and run and they figure out how to get home,
right,
you know, or something else like that. So yeah, there's a big commitment to it, you know, so. And
how many active volunteers do you have that show up regularly to meetings?
There's about 40, and I have to get back with Tommy, but we're hovering around the 40, 42 mark.
Wow.
And so for most times, we've been getting 20 plus individuals out. And so if you can get over half of your volunteers.
Yeah, not bad.
You know, and, you know, them trying to work around their work.
Right.
You know, their biggest thing is a lot of them work in the mines.
Right.
You know, Tommy works at the federal prison. Different people work different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, back in the years, I worked for Frito-Lay, and so I'd be out in Morenci when the call would come in. So I'd be 3-4 hours later showing up and helping out. And so, yeah.
So with volunteering so just because I'd like to get to know you a little bit better, what did you do, for a career? Were you with Frito-Lay quite some time? Or?
Quite a few times, and I told you earlier, I have a great, interesting story. I think I am, kind of.
Yeah.
Back in 1980, I moved down here and went to work for Coronado, the Coors distributor.
Okay. Where'd you move from?
I moved from Flagstaff,
Okay.
born and raised. So I come out of Flagstaff. And so come down and went to work for Coors. And then I went to work for Clover Club Potato Chips. And I actually bought the franchise and ran it for a little over 9 years. And then they kind of come in and jerked and crushed the company out from underneath of us, Borden's, and they phased out. So Frito had a job, so I went to work for Frito for 18 years. I went to work for them in 92, I believe it was. And so had a great career, loved the career, loved my job, loved getting up and going to my job. And then back 2010, August 25th, I was coming back from Morenci, and a young man decided he wanted my road instead of his. So he hit me head on, and he lived through it and had some complications and stuff. At that time, I was put out to pasture more or less, tore up my right shoulder, my right ankle and everything. Frito-Lay came in and they said, all right, you're disabled. So they disabled me at that time, and that was after 18 years. So took a couple of years to recuperate and get over that. And,
yeah, I bet. Was it on the straightaway? I mean,
it was at 141. It's almost at the straightaway.
Okay.
It's just as you start into the Black Hills.
Okay.
And he was heading to work in a rush and in a loaner car, and he lost control. And so after that, I always say I've been blessed. I've got to live, had enough finances and enough stuff that I could survive. I had more time to volunteer to search and rescue, do the things that I wanted to do.
What year was that accident? You said
2010.
2010. Okay.
So 14 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So, but I feel blessed and really great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, how lucky that it turned out the way that it did. I mean,
Yes.
head-on collision on that road is. I mean, it happens more often than we would like. I mean, it's
Yes.
a dangerous road sometimes.
Yes. It's a very dangerous road, and so and that was part of my job, is driving up every day and back. At that time, Clifton, Morenci, Duncan, and then parts of Safford was my route. And but yeah, I enjoyed my job. I loved my job. Got up every morning, looked forward to going to work most days. There's every now and again there's that day you're like, oh, I don't want to go to work.
So I'm sorry if I missed it. So were you in a company vehicle when it happened?
Yes, I was in the Frito-Lay van. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, I was in the Frito-Lay van. So,
Gotcha.
yep, and so yep. And so things happen, and they always say, you look back and say things happen for a reason, and so
Oh yeah, I'm a firm believer in that.
And so, but I was blessed. Back when I was a salesperson, back when I owned my business, the valley was the same. All the stores, all of them, I just fell in love with this. I mean, when I'd go around to Clifton, Morenci, Duncan, I had part of Wilcox, and then I done all of Safford and here. I mean, so many great people. And people said, "Oh, are you going to move?" And I said, "I have nowhere else I want to move to. There's a lot of places I want to visit,
Right.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this is a place I love." And,
Yeah. Yeah, I was born and raised in Thatcher. Davis is from Pima. I mean, we're all Gila Valley born and raised, and
Right.
we all love it. It really is a great area.
It seems to be a common theme of our conversations is
Yeah.
how great the Gila Valley is.
It is. It
Yeah.
just, for me, it has just blessed me.
Yeah.
So got to raise my 2 kids here and everything else, and so things are great.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
And you said you were born and raised in Flagstaff.
Yeah, I
So
was
what
raised-
brought you here initially?
My first wife, she got a teaching job at Thatcher, and so I followed her.
Yeah.
And come down to that, and so that was it.
And then the Valley just roped you in and gripped you. And
Valley just wrote me in, and so I just stayed here.
Yeah.
So, but what can I say? Life's
That's awesome.
good, and
Yeah.
it's been a blessing. So, and taking on projects like this and other things, and search and rescue, we talked about that, and a lot of the volunteers come and go. A lot of them come in and they step, and we're a stepping stone for them. A lot of them become firemen. A lot of them become police officers. Move to different things.
Did you guys do a lot of different certifications, right? Like with parts of your trainings. So that could benefit them elsewhere too.
Oh yeah, they step up and move up, and so
Yeah, huge. I mean, any volunteerism is going to look great on a resume, but there are a lot of I mean, the credentials you have to get. Anything that you do at search and rescue is going to be a huge resume builder, I think, right?
Yep, it's a huge, and takes you on to different places, so. And my theory is for many years, it was handed down to me by people teaching me, and it is if we can teach somebody and they can go out and help save a life, help somebody else, even after if they leave search and rescue, whatever they do, if they take some of them skills with them and they help save a life, go on and better their life, that's what it's about.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. I can imagine, this is just something I pictured, one of the benefits of volunteering with search and rescue is, even though a lot of the times, you're out, it's a serious situation, I'm sure you get to see a lot of parts of the valley and the country that a lot of people don't get to.
Right.
Do you have any favorite spots or areas that maybe aren't, everyone's heard of Gila Box, everybody knows Fryme. Is there any special areas that you
might want to keep them secret?
Yeah, that's tell me a Davis and we'll edit it out later.
Well, it depends on what you're wanting to do. Klondike is so awesome out there. You go down there, you go out to Air Vipa, you go out to Iron Cap, through the old Air Vipa town. Very beautiful. People want to go out there. That's very nice. That's people go out and they go down through Air Vipa Canyon, but you miss a lot of it if you don't take some of the side roads and go out and explore that. That's very interesting. Get to know the places. Cedar Springs out there. And if you get a chance,
on Klondike Road, right?
That's on the Klondike Road. Go out there. Chuck Hoisington from Open Loop. Mm-hmm. He's done so much history out there. If you stop and read some of the signs, and you go into Sheep's Wash, I hope that's what I'm saying right. If you get down in there, you got to get permission from Chuck. But go down in there. He has a deal where there was a big ambush years ago when people was coming across from Fort Grant going to Fort Thomas, and he has a big history sign there. And it is just awesome to know, more history about, the Gila Valley and stuff. That's a nice place to go. I love going out in there, riding around, camping at Cedar Springs. That's really nice. Stockton Pass has its places. I really like Stockton. The thing with search and rescue is we go out, and then we haven't done it we got kind of tied up these last few years, but a lot of us, we have the side-by-sides. So we'll take off and go exploring roads. Or if we have a rescue, especially if it's at night, we have a rescue in certain places, the following weekend, we'll go back out there and explore it. We're like, okay, we were out here at dark, now what does it look like in the daylight? Yeah. So a bunch of us will get together and we'll go back out there and explore that,
And is that just out of enjoyment, or is that more like, so next time this happens, we have to go out at night?
It's both of them. It's both. It's like, okay, where we been, or we hadn't been there.
Right.
Or we've been there, but it didn't look the same. We want to go back and see it. Let's go see if it is, We've had some different ones up on Mount Graham and coming down off of Combine and stuff like that. We've had a couple of rescues up there. And there was a bunch of us that the following week when we could get together, we wanted to go up and just hike it to enjoy, look at it, see what it is. Slip rock up there. We've had, years ago we had a couple of rescues off of there, and so there's a handful of, we're going back. We want to explore this.
Can you tell us about those rescues?
I can tell you about some of them.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear that.
One of them was Judge Sanders' boy. They were up there having a lot of fun, and he slipped, went down Slide Rock. It's about 25 feet.
And where is Slide Rock? Is this up above Fry Mesa?
No.
This is all the way by.
It's all the way up on top.
Okay.
Come out of Combine,
Okay.
go down to by just across from Combine.
Okay.
Come down into that.
Gotcha.
Creek.
Okay.
And so yeah, he fell, and they called us all in. Cochise County come over, and they assisted, and we all went down. Had DPS helicopters come in, and was able to get him up far enough where the helicopter could come in, and we could do a long line. And we had one of Cochise paramedics that was certified on the long line, so they come in, and between all of us, we had people from Freeport Emergency. Their team was up there. There was a lot of volunteers up there because our little bunch at that time, we couldn't handle it. So we had a whole bunch come in and airlifted him out, saved his life.
Wow.
And that was a really good thing. You know, we had a lot of them. There's another one there, 2 missionary boys in Snow Flat. They were up. Don't want to get them in trouble, but they were having fun on the rocks.
I remember hearing about this.
Yeah.
They were pushing rocks down the hill.
Yeah, they were pushing rocks, and so one of them that, you know, the one fell and went down, and that was one of the scarier ones because I was on that. Well, I was on all of them, but I was on that one, and we were all down there with the paramedics, and I'm not a paramedic. I want to make sure we're clear on that.
You didn't take that certification.
I didn't take that class, but we were down there with all the rope team, and we were setting him up, and we had put him in the Stokes in the bag to get him lifted out on a long line. We were sitting there, and the helicopter come in, and the helicopter was hovering with the rope on us. And of course, the rope has a big old ball on the end of it and stuff. And this is a long rope, heavy duty rope. And we're all sitting around the patient and trying to get him, had an IV bag going on him and stuff. And all of a sudden we heard Mayday, Mayday, and one of the other ones that was more proficient than I was, he said, duck! And we just laid over the patient because the helicopter started going into some flashing, and they just dropped that rope.
Oh, jeez.
And luckily when they dropped that rope, he pulled away, so it fell away from us. But we were covering it, and we were all like, oh, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
And,
So
he
the rope almost hurt you guys,
Yeah.
but now you don't have the rope to get him out.
Yeah. But luckily they'd already called for another helicopter, so another DPS helicopter come out of Phoenix, and he come in, and he set up, rigged up, and then they come in, and then we got the long line of the guy off. And then, of course, as the paramedic gets to fly off, we all have to gather everything up and hike all the way out the canyon. So 2.5, 3 hours later, we get back up to Snow Flat with all the equipment.
Should have got that certification, so you got a helicopter ride.
That's it.
Yeah.
But, you know, probably my most one that really got me was, God, this was 28 years ago. Anyway, little boy went missing at the Bible camp up there.
Yeah.
And we all went up and started looking for this little boy. And we had a lot of biologists up there at the time and Forest Service, and we looked and looked and looked all night long for this little boy. And interviewed the mom and dad, looked and looked and searched. And Greenlee County come down. We, fortunate with search and rescue, we get to start calling other counties in to help us. Because if it starts getting extended and more, we get the call from the state.
Need more help. Yeah.
We get more help, they come in.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of people, so we were all there. And Greenlee County was going, and we were tired, exhausted. They went out, and we were all sitting there, and pretty soon Greenlee said, hey, we hear him singing, but now we can't find him. And the little boy shut up when they started hollering. So anyway, after interviewing, I got with the commander at the time, and I'm like, tell everybody to go quiet and tell them, do not say a word until they have eyes on him.
Yeah.
After interviewing
Just listen.
the mom and dad.
Uh-huh.
And so they were real quiet. So about 30 minutes, the little boy started humming a little tune. And so Greenland County got to go in and they located him and give him a candy bar and to be about 100 yards away and have them come up and hand this little boy over to mom and dad and just a joyful ending.
Yeah.
We have a story in one of our books about it. And later, the mom wrote us another thank you letter later. And so that was one of, that's one of the more...
How long ago was that? Do you know? I mean, about...
it's got to be 25 years ago.
The only reason I ask is, and I hope I'm not mixing stories or anything. No. My grandpa was Vance Clough. I don't know if you knew Vance Clough, but he, I think that he was in search and rescue. I remember hearing a story that he was looking for someone up on the mountain. He got bit by a rattlesnake during the search.
Wow.
So, yeah, so he ended, one of those situations where, and I'm sure that happens pretty regularly too, not necessarily a rattlesnake, but someone else gets hurt,
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But maybe it was that. There's probably...
And there's so many people that's been in search and rescue. I look back and we have a guy, Robin, now that's in, he's going back through the history and finding more names and people that was part of it and started it and, look back onto it. So, hopefully we leave a lasting something to pass on and give it to them. And so...
Do you have any funny calls that you can remember?
Well,
you don't have to mention names.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been some embarrassing ones.
Yeah,
I don't want to mention any one. I could probably get myself in trouble.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, remember, this isn't live. We can edit it too.
There's some ladies that went on a hike on Mount Graham and they kind of got disoriented and man, they did not want to call, and we got...
Was this not that long ago?
And anyway, we got...
This was my Aunt Nancy and my Aunt Jeannie.
And
This happened.
And they did not want... And I kept trying to explain to them, it's nothing embarrassing, nothing else. And they're like... And we got to laughing so much. We had some Forest Service guys up there with us, and some of their other family members come up, and they did not want... And they're probably going to shoot me now.
He's the one that threw David. Don't be mad at David.
They brought that up at my uncle's funeral not too long ago, so they're laughing about it now.
It's good to have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And we have a sense of humor because we get out there, we're all people.
Yeah.
And things happen.
Right.
There's something like, okay, that was really not the smartest thing, but okay,
Well, and I bet a lot of the serious issues that turn into serious issues could be avoided if they would call sooner.
Oh, yeah.
So it's smart that they went ahead and made the call because it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's life and death sometimes. Yeah.
Our number one thing is we tell everybody, we're free.
Yeah.
The sooner you even think you're in a problem, call 911.
Yeah.
And get the sheriff's department because we work right under the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
So the deputy sheriffs, our coordinators, will start looking it all over to say, okay, what do you need, or can a deputy go handle this? And so the sooner we know about it, daylight is one of our best assets.
Yeah.
So, if you know something's happening at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you wait until 6 o'clock in the afternoon, because it takes us approximately, depending on where we're going and everything else, we're 30 minutes to an hour out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's just...
Yeah, that's something I think people don't think about a lot is how big Graham County is. All the counties in Arizona, but yeah.
And it's a lot easier to find them during the day than at night.
Right.
And once the temperature drops, your funny situation can turn into a serious one pretty quick.
Yeah.
And, we tell everybody, we tell our coordinators all the time, we would much rather be called out, get our equipment, and be turned around than be 2 hours behind.
Yeah.
And we try to tell the public that. The public needs to know that, And the every one of them is different. We had a hunter that broke his knee out there in Sandtank, and they just, it was hours before they decided to call us. It was hours more longer to get him there. It was taking a long time.
Is that by Fort Thomas?
Well, we had one at Fort Thomas, but
Yeah.
we had one out at Sandtake.
Oh, where's Santan Cat?
It's Klondike, right before you drop off into Crazy Horse. You go out behind the big tower there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would much rather be, I'd much rather be halfway there and get the phone call or the radio dispatch says, hey, they're safe, they're sound, you can turn around.
Yeah.
That's
a successful search at that point.
Everything's ended, very good, and turn around and go. So
yeah.
But and then there's the other ones. We've had the plane crashes and this and that is not really good. But we'll do what we can and do whatever and stuff. So
what how do I want to ask this? In the valley, what would you say is the most dangerous? Like, what do people get in trouble with most? What types of call outs?
Activity? Where are they?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it is we've had in the past. I'm gonna jinx myself. Fry Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
That's rugged country. People get in there and don't realize how rugged the little canyon up above it is, how the canyon is, the cliffs. There's a lot of obstacles up there, just getting up there. That's one. The sand dunes is another one with all the motorcycles and side-by-sides and stuff. Fortunately, unfortunately, sometimes the rangers and DPS can beat us out there and take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've rolled out there and taken care of that.
Mm-hmm.
The Gila box, the river, we get a lot of calls on the river, especially in the springtime when it's up and running and people's floating the river.
Mm-hmm.
Had some incidents up there and stuff. They would be probably bad. Summertime on Mount Graham, because we get a lot of people from Tucson and Phoenix and New Mexico and even Texas going up on Mount Graham.
Yeah.
Because they have people living here, they know about it, they come, so Mount Graham, there's a lot of people get lost on Mount Graham.
Yeah.
Because you get up in the trees and all of a sudden it starts getting a little dark and everything else, and a little rainstorm comes in, it's gloomy. You get turned around on that mountain real quick. And you think you can walk off of that, you get to an edge and you can see lights. Well, it's a long ways off of that mountain. You're not going to make it, I've hiked it up, I've hiked it down, and it's a all night, all day, just trying to get to Fort Grant from Riggs Lake. And so, it has its stuff.
I think a lot of people think, how am I going to get lost here? I know there's a town right there. So they assume, worst case scenario, I'll just keep walking till. But it's such rough country that you get into areas where you're not getting out. I mean, safely at least. So I think a lot of people, they misjudge or they underestimate the potential danger that is involved with floating the river or hiking Mount Graham. I mean, a fun afternoon can turn south pretty quickly if you're not careful.
And, cell phones has changed this. Back 30 years ago, we had lots of calls.
Yeah.
I don't know how people survive without cell phones.
I mean, nowadays with the cell phones, they've really, they've helped us. We've had them where we can either, get into them and they can find their location on this. Mm-hmm. The sheriff's department, we can't. But they can get permission and go in and find them with their cell phone, and we can locate them pretty close. Mm-hmm. They've helped out a lot. They call in and say, okay, we're good. Cell phones has really reduced our searches. Our rescues, where they actually have an accident or something like that, we still go on them.
Yeah.
But they've cut that down quite a bit.
I don't know how people got through life without cell phones. Like, my parents will tell me stories of, even just simply traveling to Mesa, right? Nowadays, if I get a flat tire, I call AAA, but back then you're stuck, and then you have someone waiting for you, and they're showing, 3 hours later, and they're just like, oh, they must have got it. You don't know where people are at. Like, I don't know how. It just blows my mind that.
Yep, it's an all new world.
It's
we're living in.
Yeah.
So
on the other hand, it was kind of awesome to not be attached.
Oh yeah,
100% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
If somebody couldn't get a hold of you, it's because you weren't home.
Right. Yeah.
And you had an excuse for everything.
Yeah. I was talking to some people at Valley Telecom, and I mean, this was a long time ago, 25 plus. I said, yeah, I got my first bag phone from Valley Telecom downtown on Main.
Yeah.
You know,
What's a bag phone?
and a bag phone. You don't know what a bag phone is?
It
It was a great big thing, big old box, had a phone, looked like a house
suitcase type of thing.
phone. Yeah,
Okay.
bag.
Yeah.
And you plugged it in, and you had a little antenna. You could put it on your car. You could talk to anybody on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could talk to the world.
Yeah.
I mean, there was very few places you did not have service.
I remember when car phones were a thing, and the one person, the person I remember the first car phone that I saw, I was like, "Whoa, this is the coolest thing ever." Was McKay Stevens, his mom, Trina had one. I think that's what I'm remembering, at least in her car. I was like, "What? You can call from the car?" Like, those didn't last very long. The cell phones were right behind, and you just replaced them. But I remember when car phones came out. But
Yeah, I'm glad I've been able to live through both the
At least a
before
little
and
bit,
after.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand. But like our kids, they'll never know life without
Yeah.
cell phones. It's,
technology. I saw something on Facebook at one point when someone said, "I told my kids that I was older than Google, and they didn't believe me."
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
is true. So
Yeah, that's our modern stuff is just, for me, and then, a few years ago, my dad at 90, I talked to him. Before that, my grandma, I'd go into her and we'd be carrying a cell phone in there, and she's like, well, I come here on a wagon.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
it's so crazy when you put it into perspective like that, because that's not that long ago. That's just your grandma,
Yeah.
and they were riding. I mean, how quickly?
100 years ago.
Yeah, it sounds like, just not that long ago. If you think of where, it's just insane how,
Crazy.
when you put it in that perspective, it's crazy. And it makes you wonder.
And crazy, it's crazy to
What
think
the
where it's going.
heck is it
I
going to
mean,
be 100 years from now? Yeah.
They're already putting chips in people's brains, and
It's
Well,
it's a mess.
all the stuff that they don't tell us about yet.
this is crazy.
Well, we used to watch this on TV when I was a kid. The Jetsons and stuff. We watched it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Now we get to live it.
It's literally happening, like with drones and stuff that are, they're the technology is sophisticated enough where people are literally flying around on their own specialized drone for it's a jetpack. I remember as a kid thinking that'd be so cool to have an actual jetpack. That's literally like they pretty much have those.
Yeah.
Pretty much have them, yeah.
So, and it probably isn't too long until they're going to be easily accessible on to consumers.
Just order one from your phone,
Yeah.
it comes to your house,
Yeah.
you jump on. Yeah.
There you go. You could get some volunteer jetpacks and
That's it.
and train some volunteers on jetpacks to fly in and save some people.
Yeah, we were all talking about the drones here a while back, and I remember 20 years ago, they're like, well, you got to get special permits and everything else, even to own one. Now you can just go right online and order one.
They're cheap now,
Dropping them
too.
off.
They're not even that expensive anymore.
Yeah,
It's
so,
crazy.
So
I remember when I was a kid, they had these toys called air hogs. They were like little helicopters that are
Right.
basically a very, very first version of a drone
Yeah.
now, and it was so freaking hard to fly.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't control it, but it would fly for a little bit. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, just from that to, I need to update my toys. I need to go get a new drone.
There you go.
I don't have a drone yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I'll be amazed when I actually try to fly one. I never have. But
Yeah, have you guys implemented drones in search and rescue at all, or would it even help, or is it even?
Oh, it helped tremendous.
Yeah.
Other organizations, we've been talking about it for years and years. They just brought it up the other day because
Yeah.
they went to a training up at Heber. Getting somebody dedicated for it is another thing.
Yeah.
Because you got to.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, somebody to go down and get licensed and know how to
Gotcha.
run it
Yeah.
and be able to jump and run when we need them, or have 2-3 people that's available, to do that. Luckily, on a few of ours, Safford had their drone come in. Now Thatcher has one. So we've used their drone.
Okay, yeah.
They've come in and looked things over and checked things. And so, a great asset.
Mhm.
A few years ago, there was a cargo off in the Salt River in Gila County, and one of the other counties come in, and they were having to send people over ropes down to where the car was. And if it wasn't for the drone guiding the people off the cliff, it was, really an awesome thing to go in and they could hover down and see what was going on and come back up.
Come up with a plan.
Come up with a plan. So they're like, okay, you guys don't want to go down here. You want to go there and then come over, and to guide them into it. No, it's, we always said eyes in the sky help us.
Yeah.
I mean, with us, PHI's always been willing to donate what they call a good flight for us. So if we have somebody we can't locate, they can call them and they'll go fly over and spot from the air. Okay, we're looking for this camp or this truck. They won't stop and help unless we need emergency.
Yeah.
And then when they do, you get on the helicopter. You pay for that ride.
Yeah.
So but they'll donate. They'll come up and be our eyes in the sky, and so a drone is kind of them drones are getting so they can get farther and farther out, and
And that flight isn't cheap either.
No, it isn't. No, that
unless
flight
you're
isn't.
on their subscription plan.
Yeah. I've only flown in one helicopter my entire life, and that's when I did firefighting with the BLM for a summer, and I lucked out. So this is an example of one of the history in our valley, right? So there was a fire, I think it was called the Rattlesnake Fire, up there by in the Winchesters, I think, on the other side of Mount Graham.
Yep.
And it was over there by Power's Garden,
Right.
Power's Cabin and all that. So they some other crew had wrapped the cabin during the fire. They put, fire resistant stuff to try to protect it as best as possible. Luckily it didn't burn down or anything, but then our crew, we got flown in to take the wrap off. So the fire was pretty much out. It wasn't really dangerous anymore. It was up there by Power's Mine is what it was. So I was able to, and that's a long hike back in there. That's a piece of history in this valley that's super cool. The whole Power story and all that. That's a really cool piece of history that anyone can hike to that area, but it's hard to get in there. So I was fortunate enough to have a helicopter drop me off. We, packed everything up, stayed the night, and then we hiked out. But yeah, that's the only time I ever flew on a helicopter.
Power's Mine is on my bucket list because I come from one of the guys that was killed there.
Oh, really?
Martin Kempton was the sheriff's deputy.
Right.
He was in the shootout. He was killed there. So.
And I don't even know the story. I know there's a shootout there, but I couldn't tell you details of the story. How many people died in that shootout? Do you know?
I think it was 3 Powers
brothers
of the family, the dad and 2 brothers, I want to say, and then a sheriff and the deputy, Sheriff McBride and Martin Kempton.
I'm pretty sure they made a movie about it.
They did.
Yeah. I need to watch that.
It's
sometime.
great.
Have you seen it?
Ooh, depending on who you ask, it's great.
Yeah, I'm sure they tell is the story pretty one-sided?
If you ask my grandpa, who has since passed, he saw the movie and he says it's totally biased toward the Power bit. But anyway, I thought it was good.
Right.
But I don't have any hard feelings because it was my great grandpa.
Right.
No, great grandpa. So it's not like I had any relationships.
Right.
Well, we were on rescue up there. We had a guy missing, and so we actually had a Blackhawk come in and pick us up.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And so they picked us up out on the flats, and there was 2 teams. One team got off, but they ended up landing right in front of the Powers Garden cabin, which that's not a very big space.
Yeah.
But that was really awesome to be on that. And they come in and we let one team off there, and then they took us to the other side on Rattlesnake, where there used to be an old wagon trail down in there. And they dropped my team off there. And so we were hiking in that way.
Okay.
And fortunately, they spotted the person we were looking for. He was diabetic, and they located him. And so fortunately, the helicopter come back and picked us up and went back and picked up the team out of Power Garden and took us back. I was not looking forward to that walk home.
Yeah. Just the hike out was tough. I couldn't imagine doing both, Gotta get at least a one-way ride.
So that's what I know about Powers Garden for the most part.
Yeah.
I've read part of the story and stuff, but
Well, the movie is I think it's not that long, maybe an hour, and it's very interesting. Just because it's here, it always adds some entertainment when it's somewhere that you know and are familiar with.
Yeah. So the night that we slept there, it rained that night, and so we were all getting. Some people were sleeping inside of the cabin, I think they were, but there's the mine shaft that a few of us. If you go too far back, it starts to fall down and stuff. So you gotta be kind of careful. But a few of us went into the mine shaft and spent the night in there just because we didn't want to get wet. But it was not comfortable because there's big rocks everywhere. So you kind of saw it. I've got a picture of me. I look like. I look like I'm like in one of the mines in Iraq or something. I'm all dirty and I look, So it was a cool experience though. It was a lot, and I think there's tons of that around here that people don't know about.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you, have there been any calls that and I hope this isn't like a sensitive subject, but have there been any calls that you weren't able to locate an individual or?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do, and it's something on the back of our mind. But yeah, we have a few that's still unsolved.
Yeah.
Trying to find out where they went. They're gone. They vanished. And we have a lady on the mountain 6 years ago. I want to say maybe 8 years ago. Many times been up there searching and everything, and she just vanished.
Yeah.
And there was a guy out towards Club Ponds. We got called. They located his truck, but he's never been located.
Yeah.
wow.
I think there's one other one.
Yeah.
But it's something that after you get in it a while, you all of a sudden, them unsolved mysteries. It's like, okay, what if we had done something better? What did we went up there 3-4 weekends looking, and the team, we brought in teams from all over the county for the lady. All over, not the county, the state. We had all kinds of dogs, different dogs, cadaver dogs, smell dogs, Fort Grant dogs was up there. We had tons of people, and we've never found it.
Yeah.
And so it's one of them that, okay, so we don't know what will ever happen there. The guy out at Clough, so, every county has theirs that, we go in missing. We went down and helped Cochise in the Chiricahuas, and it was many years until later they've kind of pieced parts of it together, but they still haven't found her completely, So in all search and rescue members, if you've ever been there and you haven't found somebody, it just kind of okay. We don't blow it off.
Right.
It's kind of like it's still one more of the mysteries.
Right.
We had a lady out there going to Klondike. We call it Crazy Horse, that you drop down through that one more. Anyway, we went in and there was a gal in her car and she went missing, and we looked and looked and looked and looked and looked. And finally the coordinator had to call it and say, okay, we've exhausted all of our resources and we're exhausted. So, and about 3 months later he come in and we was in a meeting and he said, oh, guess what? This lady we've been looking for, she showed up and she's in a halfway house down in Nogales. And the cheers was up.
Right.
We're like, yay, she's alive.
Yeah.
And that, we're like, okay, she caught a ride, got out of there. And so,
I'm glad you have your attitude, because my attitude would be like, thanks for ruining my weekend.
yeah.
Obviously, that's a happy ending to it,
Right.
but also frustrating because a lot of someone that was just irresponsible.
Right.
All this time, all this energy,
Right.
all this money was spent trying to save her when she just abandoned her car and went somewhere else. So that's frustrating, but a happy ending.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of them. We've had different ones out there that and we always say, we start trying to get out there. We can't search the world for everybody. We try to contain in our area and figure out what we can and what we cannot do. And sometimes we have to just say, especially our coordinators with the sheriff's department, because we work directly under them, so they actually come in and say, okay, we're exhausted here.
Yeah.
We're going to have to put it as an open case and see what shows up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
There's a page I like to follow on TikTok that it's a private group,
Right.
they go and work on cold cases, and they find a lot of like lakes and rivers,
missing vehicles and missing people.
But
I've seen
those are always really interesting. That they had these cold cases for 5 or 6 years, and they're able to find them. But I always wonder, like, how is it that this private entity is able to do that?
The whole TikTok account's probably just
Funding.
bogus.
That's kind of what I'm
There's funding out there. They're getting all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
and you watch and see, and they come up with it, and trying to think of what's the guy's name that I'm lost now. He's on TV every now and again, and he goes in and closes mystery stuff.
Okay.
Not thinking, he's been there many years.
Yeah.
He had a missing son, and then he went through, and now that's what he does.
Okay.
And so big private companies and other people, they fund him.
Yeah.
And so, and he goes out and he's closing cases.
Yeah.
So, they start doing, our officers, our valley, our people, we only have so much resources.
Right.
And then we, have to. They come in and they got more resources, and they can, start going and putting the puzzle more together.
I'm sure that's another frustrating side of the story of, how many rescues or how many instances would have been successful had there been enough resources or enough funding or another volunteer, so
Right.
always the what if we had another helicopter or, the funding for it.
Oh, yeah. But, all right.
Well, cool. So I don't know. I noticed you brought. Was there anything that you specifically wanted to talk
No,
about?
I just had some notes and wanted to make sure that if you threw something at me, I had a little bit of stuff to
Maybe
go
we
off
didn't
of.
grill you hard enough. You didn't even have to pull out your notes.
Well, so I was going to ask you if you had to put a timeline on it. Obviously, it's probably impossible to do. But do you guys have like a goal or a projection of when the ground will be broken for the new building?
The new building is approximately 2 weeks away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The groundwork.
Yeah.
Daniel Ward, we give him the bid to do the concrete,
Okay.
and he has all of his equipment down in Bisbee right now.
Okay.
I just talked to him, day before yesterday. But anyway, I talked to him, and as soon as he gets his equipment, we've awarded him the bid, and he's going to start breaking ground
Awesome.
on it.
So you're starting.
Oh, we already purchased the building. The building has come, and it's sitting out there.
Is it a
metal
building?
building. It's a metal building.
Yeah.
So
Where's it going? Right next door to the current one?
right up against the back of it.
Okay.
So you'll be able to walk through the existing building right into the new
So
building.
you're kind of combining
Joining them
Yeah.
together.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
And
awesome.
so, the groundbreaking, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll be breaking ground and getting concrete on it and everything else.
That's exciting.
So we're all excited about that. And then the Ward brothers, they come in. We went to different people, and we're going to have Joe and Daniel Jr. Do the building, putting it up.
Yeah.
And then we have, I'm losing names here. EA Glass has come in, going to put some of the glass in and donating a big bunch.
Awesome.
Right down the road. I can see them right in front of me. Advanced Air.
Answer. Yeah.
Jay and them, they've donated stuff. They're going to come in and they're going to be putting some insulation or heaters and stuff. Tri-County's on board, so we're ready to go with all the AB, all the material we need to go. Ace Hardware stepped up. We have all the material sitting there. It's all ready to go for all the rebar, all the bolts and nuts and everything else there.
That's the nice thing about metal buildings. Once it starts going up, it'll go up real quick.
It'll go
Yeah.
up real quick, We got
That's
to get
exciting.
the concrete. So we're all excited about that. And then once this project's over, Tommy and them, they're going to do some remodeling inside the existing building. So
Okay.
we're going to go out and we're trying to get ready to put in a grant to FMI Community Foundation. Some of the people, Kay and some of them have been there listening, going through the grants there. So that's going to be a second phase on doing some work in there. We just want to upgrade it so when the people come in, it's upgraded, taken care of, easy to maintain.
Right.
Yeah.
We got 1971 toilets still in there. They're still working. We rebuilt it.
Time for some new things.
Yeah.
Well, you got your new truck too.
That was really great.
Yeah.
United Way again. We got to looking around, and United Way, they're like, yeah, we're on board. We're on there. Kempton Chevrolet, I can't give them hats off, kudos. They stepped right up and they fitted us right into a truck. CMI went in and they put the wrap on it, give us.
And you've got the reflective wrap on there.
Parts of it.
Yeah,
yes.
parts of it. That's so my man Morgan's truck has reflective tape on it. I think those are the only two I've noticed in town that have that reflective, which is really cool.
So,
makes it pop.
So Tommy Snotterly, he did the design on that and did really good on that. People stepped up and we've done stuff. Trek RV with the camper shell, and there's so many things with that. That was we had an old retired police truck, little half-ton Ford, and we knew we needed it. So there again, myself and a few others, we jumped on board and went in. And when Adam was down at United Way, he's like, yeah, well, I'm willing to help step up. And there again, the sheriff's office, they said, hey, we can help fund some of this, but we can't afford to buy you guys a new truck. The county's like, no, we can't, that's not in the budget for us. So they come in and we did our due diligence and we've got it.
That's awesome.
And, we have a nice heavy duty truck now. And
that's awesome.
It's a lot of, going out and trying to get all prepared with new stuff. We're still seeking another truck, trying to get that funded out after this project. So we have actually 2 of them.
So they're keeping you busy with the projects.
Yeah, they're keeping us and awesome people that's kind of surrounded me and they're doing their thing. And, Gila Valley Foundation last year, they come in and we opted out on them and we, they said, okay, you're up for a grant and everything else. We looked our equipment all over and we said we needed equipment. And so they ended up funding us $9,800 for new equipment. So for a lot of our equipment, we still have a few things we've got to upgrade, but for a lot of our equipment, we got upgraded on that.
Awesome.
So the equipment's coming along to different grants.
That's awesome.
And different people filling in. Kudos to Trey. I mean, he's just, keeps track of all the money and everything else. And when we have to go in there, it's kind of like I hand it to him or we hand it over and say, okay, you got to do the numbers. And, he's like, okay, my job. And he does the numbers up. And,
careful, don't stroke his ego too much.
No, he's I like to give credit where credit's due, where people step up and they do a job, and Trey's way behind the scene, I mean, he's so busy with the family and everything else. And, Kim, she retired out of the police department and she's out at Klondike now. But she still makes special trips into town and stepping up to make sure, things are going on and stuff.
Yeah.
So, those people that, coming up and stepping out of their way and, still right there and seeing things through. So it's so great.
That's awesome.
If somebody wants to donate to search and rescue, what's the best way of going about doing that?
Contact myself, Tommy Snotterly, one of the officers.
Yeah.
Come in. We got the 501c3. We can get you the credit. We can get you the numbers.
So it's a tax credit?
It is a
dollar
tax
for
credit.
dollar?
That's awesome.
Or is it
It's a tax write-off, and
Okay,
there's a difference, and I'm not really up to date on that. So
we
don't
are not tax
Talk to your tax
professionals
professional.
here.
You have to go to your accountant on that one. Some of them are dollar for dollar for the
Right.
state of Arizona. So I don't know how that. I do know that if you make a donation, you have to do it before the end of the year to credit for that year.
Yeah.
Now I know after the year. My wife and we always donate to a couple of organizations in town, and they fall under that section, dollar for dollar.
Right. That's my mom works at the school in Pima, and
Yeah.
they have some fundraisers.
They have that
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I know about that. I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, same.
and
I don't know
stuff.
enough to
But,
speak
yeah.
intelligently.
If anybody wants to, we can give them all the paperwork, everything else, as a donation.
Cool.
And, if anybody, and we're getting ready to do a fundraiser at the New Frontier Steak and Spirits, which formerly the Copper Steer.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom contacted me. He's like, Ronnie, I want to do something for you guys. I want to do something.
Cool.
And so we've got a prime rib dinner coming up on May the 12th. Great prime rib. Go out there. Call for reservations in advance. You can come and help support Graham County Search and Rescue. Tara and Brian out at the Trailhead Bar out there, they serve a lot of good food out there. They've contacted me and said, hey, we want to do something for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do something. So yeah, you can contact me and I can get it set up. Anybody want to contact, or you can go to Tommy, Pete, any of the other officers. We'll all communicate and say what we got going on.
Cool.
And so yeah, we're willing to take anybody's money.
Yeah.
And I probably, one of the things when we started out with the building project, we knew we had United Way backing us.
Mm-hmm.
But we had to make it gold. And one of my sales pitches and one of my beliefs is I didn't want to dig too deep into one person's pocket.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted you to feel comfortable with what you donated for us. And so when I went in, different people, different things, had their own comfort zone and how much they donated. And that's all great, we know all the nonprofits out there seeking funding and extra stuff for all the schools, all the organizations here in town. There's so many good organizations, and they're all seeking. And so we try not to overreach or asking the clients that they're giving to us.
You don't want people to feel obligated or feel bad if they're not able to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people tell me, Ronnie, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I would much, much rather have somebody just honestly come back and say, it's not happening for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, shake hands, we're good. I'm not going to be mad at you. We're good. We're friends. We're going to greet each other where we meet each other. There's no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Everybody has their comfort zone. Everybody has where their passion and where they want to go. And I for one, I never have a problem with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was a business owner for 9 years, and I understand that. There's only so much a business can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And just we talked about it a little bit earlier, but just one more time, just in case this conversation sparks interest for anyone that wants to volunteer, what's the best way to start that process? Just come to one of the Thursday meetings? Or
come out there at the Thursday meeting, come out to 630 South Dusty Trail, right across from Desert Cross Animal Hospital. Come out there at 6:30, meet with any of the members, meet with some of the officers, talk to them, see what it's all about, get an application, and we can go from that. You have to be 21. Really, I think it's 18. But I was thinking of something else. But 18 for
you have to be 21 and enjoy the parties afterwards.
That's it. But 18 for the insurance and everything else. Come on out, join. And like I said, there's a place for almost anybody on the team.
Awesome.
You don't have to do a lot of the stuff. If you're not comfortable going off a cliff on a rope, we need you up on top helping set up systems, helping get equipment in, helping this, helping that, backing up the people on top. I mean, anything. You're not good with a gory situation, don't go into it. Accidentally you might happen to go into it, but you don't have to be there. You can back away, do your comfort zone yourself, because there's lots of other trained people that's willing to go in and do it. As long as they know that you're helping back up, you're bringing equipment, you're doing this, you're doing that. So,
That's what I like that you're driving home, is that there's a spot for everybody.
Yes.
So don't let anything, if you're wanting to volunteer, don't let anything keep you from going and at least talking to you and see what options you might have and what you might be able to help with.
Oh yeah, so there's so many things. So.
That's awesome. Well, we don't want to take any more of your time, but it was a great conversation, and we really appreciate you coming in and talking to us.
Learned a lot, yeah.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you, Ronnie.
Cool. They say to get the last part of it. Gucci.
Like Gucci.